Good morning, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're going to do a little catch up with Q. Karen's going to start her in Piaffe here for a moment. And notice that it's effortless to get her to step into this now. Karen doesn't even have to touch her with the whip more than a couple of little times. I notice here she starts to sit down a little more is what we're looking for. She starts to straighten out, hold a little more flexion. That's what we're looking for right about there. She starts to come forward and starts to lower those hindquarters. Exactly what we're looking for. And again, once again, notice how completely relaxed she is when she comes to the end of it. But also look at how her body is changing, the way her head and neck is beginning to set out of the shoulders. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is because we really felt like this last couple of weeks, this horse has really completed that ability to connect across her top line. The trot and walk that we're now seeing is a really good working trot and walk. And exactly what we look for. And it's so important to realize, you know, many of you remember that this horse, we've had her for 4 or 5 years now. She had a lot of health problems in the beginning. And we just took our time and just coming back to the basic work, always coming back to that basic work. Once again, if the horse can't connect over its top line, there's no point in trying to bring them up. But once they can, then everything begins to change. And notice with her how much higher she's able to keep her head and neck now, and yet not come behind the bit. So when you have horses that want to come behind the bit all the time, it's always because they're up too high and they can't maintain that position. Look how beautiful this working walk is now. Gets a little excited there and wants to take a few extra steps, but that's really nice. Like stepping every step coming through there with the hocks now. Really nice connection. And notice that you look at her, that she looks different in that she looks more closed up from the back to the front. That is, her base of support has become closer together, shorter, because she's beginning to lift her back, and that change through her withers has finally completely taken place. And as I said, with her, she was very difficult to all her health problems that we encountered in the beginning. But this is really exactly pretty much where we'd like a working walk to be for her now. And once again, it's not going to be perfect. You'll see she'll take a couple of excited steps and want to step too much and loses it occasionally, and Karen has to ask her to stay there. But because she's so good, instead of doing a lot of walk work, build that connection, we go right to the trot work. Even just starting off there, now it's not quite as big a stride as we want yet, but it's really slower and deeper, and that's one of the things that you'll see when horses really begin to connect over their top line. You get that wonderful sense of them slowing down and lifting up. The camera's being a little funny here, so if you see a little pixelation there now we begin to see. And you'll see how, you know, she gets a little too short. Karen will send her on and bring the pole up a little more. But this connection and evenness, this was always a horse that she was never even from in one direction compared to the other, especially to the right. She always had this strange just inability to totally connect. There was always something a little bit there that wasn't quite giving us this total connection that we now have. So again, like there, the camera sticks on me a little bit. It takes a moment for it to catch up. And so when that was there in the very beginning, Karen just went ahead and it was there, so we just went on with it. So in the beginning, when you feel that, it's perfectly fine to go on. Look at that wonderful trot right there, how even, watch the hock stepping, how even that step is, how even the swing through is, and once again, how she seems to have slowed down. Wonderful sense of balance. And you can see that occasionally she wants to drop a little behind. Karen has to bring her up and send her on, but that was really a nice shoulder in with good bend, other than that one little hiccup there in the middle there, but how nicely connected once again. Look at that connection, and once again, how high the horse's head and neck now can be because it can be. And this is what's wrong with so much riding today, is that people are trying to force all these things to happen. They're trying to make the horse engage underneath itself, trying to make it come up in front, these kind of things. You can't really make or force horses to do anything physically that's going to be worthwhile. But if you wait and just keep doing the right things, that basic work of getting them stretching and swinging over their top lines, if you're able to do that in time, they will correct themselves, most of them anyway. And all of a sudden, they'll be able to come up and get regular the way that you see her now being able to do. And you see Karen, a little change of bend there is always a little difficult. She kind of tries to lose it for a minute as she changes the bend, but it only takes her a moment to get her back, and we see that same balanced trot that we had in the other direction. And notice, watch how evenly and perfectly the hind leg and its corresponding diagonal pair in front swing through and step. That's what we're always looking for. If you watch most horses in dressage competitions today, you'll see that the hind legs are usually moving behind the motion of the front legs. They're slightly behind the motion. And of course, when horses are hollow, that's what you get. Really nice into the shoulder in there. That was really good balance coming through that corner. And actually beginning to show bend. And remember, we can call a shoulder in when the horse can bend the length of its body, the way you see her there. So we could call this a shoulder in rather than a leg yield. And notice Karen opens her up a little bit, lets the frame come down, and she's working on some lengthening. How nice and even the horse comes through right there. How easy it was for her to rebalance afterwards. Once again, when horses can do these things, they will. Nice big open stride there. Really excellent working trot. So I said this was the best, most consistent working trot we've ever seen out of this horse. And of course she held that for quite a while, and of course we're going to come back and give her a stretch. So it's perfectly fine when horses reach that stage, when you come out as she did, it just felt like it was all there. Well, just go ahead and go with it. You don't have to go through a whole stretch warm-up if you feel like it's there. Now what we felt like there was she was starting to get a little tired, so we came back to the stretch to let those muscles refresh. Also notice how nicely filled in this horse is becoming behind. Notice how her belly is in, her flanks are in. We're really seeing that total core engagement now with this horse. And her energy, there's almost no bottom to it, at this point compared to how she was. If you remember, we had to work for every step that this horse took for many, many years. But she now seems to be over whatever all those physical problems were. See how Karen brought her shoulders back and the horse just came right back up underneath her there. So this was wonderful, and we've never seen her come out of the box and just be this consistent. So now you can see Karen working a little harder now, so it means the horse is starting to get tired. So we're nearing the end of what we're going to do with her today. Because we want the horse to come out and work with that sense of freshness, but we don't want a horse to go away exhausted every day. We want it to go away with still something there, that we're not just taking to the bottom every day that we work them. So we come back and stretch because we felt like she was getting a little tired, but that was the most consistent working trot we've ever seen on this horse. Even as we come to the stretch, notice how consistent and even she is from side to side. Look at her hocks moving there in that stretch. That's what we're looking for. She was always slightly off on this horse. Slightly, she wasn't unsound, she just couldn't quite connect in the way that allowed her to move equally on both sides. So very happy with this. Karen brings her back up one more time. But now we could say that this horse really has working gaits. And so we're going to end with that for today. But she was really fantastic, and just what you look for. When it's easy, you know you're doing it right. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Thanks for joining us this morning.